So this is for the people, if you have collections in your home, if you have friends or family, whoever's in your home with you that collect things and you kind of have to like deal with it. This is what I want to say. My name is Candace and welcome to our simplified home. I have been thinking a lot about collections and the idea of owning a lot of stuff, but I think also collections are about enjoying the process of collecting a lot of stuff, having it in your home and like, I don't know, doing whatever you want to do with it. But what I know about a lot of minimalists and what I think of like traditional minimalism will say, don't have collections. If you're thinking about it, like just don't do it because it will complicate things and it will create clutter. And it kind of goes against a lot of the minimalist principles or ideals of like how we use the space in our home. In a lot of ways, I'm into that. And as I'm working to simplify our home, I do keep that idea in mind. But what I also know to be true is that this home is not just mine. And the things that I value are not necessarily the things that everyone else in my home also value. So if we've met before, you already know this. If this is our first time talking, then I am married to Abdel. We've been married for 13 years, I think, at this point. We have 3 kids, a 2-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 9-year-old. So there are 5 of us in this home, and we all have our own interests. We all have things we care about. And if you live with other people in your home, then you know how it is. Y'all might share some things in common, but there are also some things that are our individual interests, right? So in my home, I have some people that I love who really love collecting things. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how we have reconciled this idea of some people really want to simplify the home, some people really want to enjoy their collections, and somehow we all live together and it works. So let's talk. Okay, so in my home, let me give you a little bit of background. You might already know this. If not, my husband is a high school English teacher. He has been teaching for over a decade. He's amazing. I'm so proud of the teacher that he is. He's awesome. Part of being a high school English teacher is also the idea that you love books and you love reading and you value that. Honestly, that works for me. I also studied to be an English teacher when I was in college. I never did actually do it, but I value the idea of reading and learning and all that. That's wonderful. And that is one thing that my husband and I bonded over early in our relationship. So it is no wonder that we have had 3 kids who also really love reading and books and storytelling, and that's something that we value in our family. And that's something that we really have a lot of fun with. The part where it differs is that some people in my home really love collecting books and owning books and kind of like being surrounded by books. Other people in my home enjoy reading books, but are fine with borrowing books from the library, returning them, getting books from friends, giving them to other friends. You know, it's more of an in and out book process. I think there are 3 ways, though, that we have been able to kind of ease the tension between these different understandings or different ways of thinking about stuff in our home. This is how we have been able to figure out how to make this work. Okay? First thing, the collection, whatever it is in your home, in our home, it's books. The collection has to exist in one space in our home. For us, it's a bookshelf. It has all of the books. And the expectation for all of us is that there are no books kept anywhere else. Books cannot live on tables in the kitchen. Books cannot live on, surfaces in the bedroom. There's no bookshelves or tables that hold books any other place in our home except for this bookshelf. Granted, it's a huge bookshelf, and books, of course, do end up other places because people read everywhere. But we all have agreed that wherever books end up, they need to make it back to the bookshelf. So books have to, or whatever the collection is, has to exist in some agreed upon space. Number 2 that we have agreed upon is that at least once a quarter or like every season, we go through the books as a family and take out the ones that we're no longer interested in and reshelve the ones that are still being loved and cared for. And that helps us because part of the collection, of course, is acquiring new stuff, but we've already gone through number 1 where all of the books have to stay on the bookshelf. So we have agreed that there is nothing sacred on the bookshelf, or there are very few books that are not up for question. Almost everything in that collection is up for discussion at least 4 times a year. That is very helpful for the people who really want to simplify the home, that there is an awareness or an understanding that this collection is up for discussion at certain points in the year. That's helpful. So number 1, the collection has to stay within the confines of whatever agreed upon storage system you have. Number 2, every so often that collection gets reviewed and reflected upon, and we can check in with each other about whether or not it's still working. Number 3 is kind of like a big one, because it's not so much the physical stuff, but more about the emotional relationship between people, which I believe family minimalism, or the idea of simplifying your home, a home that you share with others, is actually like at the heart of all of this. And I talk more about this in a video that I'll try to link somewhere. I don't know where it will go. But anyway, the idea that the family and the relationships with the people are the foundation of all of this. And so if I have to choose between arguing with my family over a system or arguing with the system over my family, I need to always choose to argue with the system. In the past, I have messed that up and gotten it backwards, where I would create a system for managing this collection that I had a different emotional attachment to than other people in my family. And I would argue with my family members about holding up the system. But in truth, what's more important between the family and my system, of course, is my family. So I need to readjust or reevaluate my organizational system for my family. So what that looks like, what that actually looks like. In the past, we did not have it set up where we would frequently go through the books and kind of reassess what got to stay in the home and what had to leave. And so what that meant, like for me as someone who was on the simplifying side, that would kind of create tension in me as I saw more books coming in and very few books going out. In this respect, I could have seen the future that the bookshelf was going to get full, and then someone was going to say, oh, let's put a bookshelf somewhere else. And that would not make me feel very good, right? And so in that regard, I needed to readjust the system to meet the needs of my family. So the system had to change where, okay, now we have to check in every so often on the number of books that are coming in versus the number of books that are going out, so that we can all feel confident in the books staying in the bookshelf, the storage system that we have set up. Another thing that I will say about how systems work in this family organization, especially around the idea of collections, is that if number 1 and number 2 are in place, if the books all stay on the bookshelf outside of obviously when you're reading them, but you agree to put them back on the bookshelf, and you also agree to evaluate them every so often. For us, it's every couple of months. Then number 3 is, it's not fair then for me to try to make you feel bad about it all the time, and it's not fair for you to try to make me feel bad about it all the time. Okay? So, and that's another thing I've definitely messed up on in the past. Like, if my family member is putting the book on the bookshelf when they're done reading it, then it is not helpful to my relationship to constantly bring up to them, why do you have so many books? Don't you find these books stressful? Don't you find this collection of yours adds chaos to our lives? Like, it's not really a fair conversation when they are agreeing to the other boundaries that exist around the collection. Similarly, it would not be fair for someone who really values the collection to kind of like tease me about it and say, oh, I'm getting another book, I'm getting more books, they're not going to fit on the bookshelf. Like, that would also, that would be like not helpful. It would be not helpful to our relationship. And the whole idea of the family minimalism and simplifying our home is to strengthen, I think, which I will definitely want to talk about this more later, but one of the big points of that is to strengthen and invest in the relationship between the family. So the management of the collection should help that and not make it worse. I think sometimes when we argue about collections with family members, it's because the boundaries are not clear and people push the boundaries a little bit too far, and that feels like disrespectful maybe, or it feels uncaring, and that's the part that really hurts. If you're also confronting the idea of a collection in your home, that you think about, what are your boundaries and how can it exist in your home? Because collections bring happiness to people, and for some people they are very important, and they should have a right to do the things that make them happy as long as they're not like dangerous and stuff. But people should have space, especially in their home. Like, in their home, they should be able to have the things that matter to them within the confines of a boundary system that you and the other person can agree upon. So those are my thoughts on collections, especially like now is the time. I'm recording this in December. It's almost Christmas time, and so I know for collections, this is a time where we often confront that. People will be getting often more things associated with the collection, and you might be anxiously anticipating a lot more stuff. So I hope this is helpful in just kind of thinking about how do we manage our feelings and our expectations, and also allow people to enjoy the things that matter to them. To me, family minimalism does leave space for the things that people love, even if it is not the things that we love, because sometimes it's like that. That's how family is. So I hope that's helpful, but please let me know what you think. How do you manage collections in your home? How does that work? Do you have a space for stuff? Is there just a room where collections can run free? Let me know how it works for you. I would honestly be very interested in that. And in the meantime, we will plan to meet again soon here in our simplified home. Bye.